When were you born? You know the answer instantly. Month, day, year. You've written it on 1,000 forms. You've said it to 1,000 strangers. It is the first fact of your administrative existence, the number that precedes your name on every document that proves you are a real person in the modern world. You carry that date like a serial number stamped at the factory, and every year, on its anniversary, you celebrate it. You light candles. You receive gifts. You are told by everyone around you that this day matters, that it is yours, that it marks something. Now try to imagine a world where nobody knows that number, not because it's been lost, because it was never recorded, because the idea that a human life should be counted from the moment of its arrival, that the date itself should be marked, remembered, celebrated, returned to every year, like a pilgrimage to the moment you became real, that idea didn't exist. For most of human history, it didn't exist. Your ancestors were born and lived and died without ever knowing their birthday. Not because they were illiterate, not because they lacked calendars, because the birthday, as a concept, as a ritual, as a marker of individual existence, was not part of how they understood a human life. The deeper I went into why, the more I realized this wasn't a story about parties and cakes. It was a story about what it means to count a person, and who benefits from the counting. Start with what the ancient world actually did, because what it did was not nothing. It was something entirely different. In the ancient world, the day that mattered was not the day you were born, it was the day you were named. In cultures across the planet, the naming ceremony, not the birth, was the event that brought a person into social existence. Among the Romans, the dies lustricus fell on the 8th or 9th day after birth. Until that day, the infant was not considered fully part of the family. The naming ceremony was the threshold. Before it, the child was biologically present but socially unformed. After it, the child was a person, received into the community, given a name, given a place. Among the Yoruba of West Africa, the naming ceremony, ikomo, took place on the 7th or 9th day and involved the entire community in a ritual that situated the child within a network of kinship, obligation, and ancestral connection. In Judaism, the bris, the circumcision ceremony on the 8th day, was and remains the covenant event, the moment the child is bound to the community and to God. In Hinduism, the namakarana, the naming ceremony, was performed on the 12th day after birth, the date chosen by astrological calculation specific to the child and the family. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision. Across every major civilization, the event that marked a new life was not the biological fact of birth, but the social act of reception. The community decided when you became real. The community performed the ritual. The community named you. And the date of that ritual, not the date of your birth, was the date that mattered. This raises a simple but critical question. When did the biological date replace the social one, and why? Here's what I keep finding in the historical record. The birthday, as a celebration of the individual's date of birth, was not just absent from most ancient cultures, it was actively opposed. The early Christian Church explicitly condemned birthday celebrations. Origen of Alexandria, one of the most influential theologians of the 3rd century, wrote that in all of Scripture, not one saint could be found who celebrated a feast on the day of his birth. Only sinners rejoice on such days, he wrote. He pointed to the 2 birthday celebrations mentioned in the Bible, that of the Egyptian pharaoh in Genesis and that of Herod Antipas in the Gospels, and noted that both were associated with executions. The birthday was pagan. It was self-exalting. It placed the individual at the center of a ritual that should belong to God. The Jewish tradition carried the same conviction. The historian Josephus wrote that the Torah's guidance led Jews away from birthday celebrations, associating them with excess and idolatry. The Talmud contains no instructions for celebrating a birth date. Instead, the tradition developed the concept of the yahrzeit, the anniversary of a death, and the celebration of name days, saints' days, holy days, days that belonged to the community and the divine, not to the individual. In medieval Europe, this framework held for centuries. Ordinary people did not celebrate their birthdays. Most didn't know the precise date. Birth records, as we've seen, didn't exist for common people until the parish registers of the 16th century, and even those recorded baptisms, not births. What people celebrated instead was their saint's day, the feast of the saint whose name they'd been given. Your identity was not anchored to the day you arrived in the world. It was anchored to the saint who protected you, to the community that named you, to the church that received you. The day you were born was biology. The day you were named was belonging. The evidence suggests something much larger than a missing tradition, because here's the timeline that nobody lays out in sequence. For roughly 17 centuries of Christian civilization, the birthday was either ignored or condemned. Ordinary people did not celebrate it. The church discouraged it. The tradition of the saint's day and the naming ceremony served the function that the birthday now serves, marking a person's place in the world, but they marked it communally, not individually. Your saint's day was shared with every other person who bore that name. Your naming ceremony was performed by your community. Neither event belonged exclusively to you. Both events situated you within something larger than yourself. Then, beginning in the late 18th century and accelerating through the 19th, the birthday emerged as a private, individual celebration. The German tradition of Kinderfest, children's birthday parties, is typically credited as the origin point. In these celebrations, which became common among German middle-class families in the late 1700s, a child received a cake with candles, one for each year of life, plus one for the year to come. The celebration was intimate, familial, focused entirely on the individual child. From Germany, the practice spread. Wealthy Protestant families in the United States began holding children's birthday parties in the 1830s. But for most Americans and most Europeans, the birthday remained an uncommon celebration until the very end of the 19th century. As the historian Elizabeth Pleck documents, poor children did not have birthday parties in the 19th century, nor did most immigrant families until well into the 20th. The birthday party, as a universal cultural practice, something that every child expects and every parent provides, did not arrive until the late 1800s at the earliest. And here's where the thread connects to something most people don't think about. The birthday became universal at the exact moment when the individual became an administrative unit, as if they were following instructions they didn't fully understand. In the late 19th century, the modern nation-state was constructing the apparatus of population management. Civil registration of births, which had begun in England in 1837 and spread across Europe and North America over the following decades, created for the first time a comprehensive bureaucratic record of when every person was born. Census systems were expanding. National identification frameworks were being built. Compulsory schooling required precise knowledge of a child's age. Military conscription required proof of birth date. Insurance systems, pension systems, labor laws protecting children from factory work, all of them depended on one thing: the date. The birthday was not just a celebration, it was a data point, and the data point came first. The silence was deafening, because look at what the birthday actually does. Not to the child, to the system. A child with a birthday is a child with a verified date of birth, which means a child with a legal age, which means a subject of compulsory education law, which means a potential conscript at 18, which means a taxable worker, which means a pensionable citizen, which means a person whose entire life arc, from schooling to employment to military service to retirement to death, can be tracked, scheduled, and administered by the state. The birthday is the anchor point. Without it, the system cannot function. Without it, you are uncountable. I want to pause here and ask something that isn't usually asked. What did it feel like to live in a world where your existence was not counted from a date, not unmeasured? You knew your age roughly. You knew you were born in a certain season, during a certain harvest, under a certain sky. Your grandmother could tell you the story of your arrival, the weather, the difficulty, the joy. But you were not a number attached to a date. Your identity was relational, not calendrical. You were someone's son, someone's daughter, someone from a specific village, someone named for a specific saint. The community held you. The date did not. In that world, the passage of time was not something done to you annually by a calendar. It was something you lived inside, the way you live inside weather. You didn't mark another year the way we do, with a candle and a countdown and the vague anxiety of aging. You aged the way a tree ages, visibly, gradually, without a scoreboard. And the community around you witnessed that aging not as a number, but as a process, a deepening, a becoming rather than a depleting. The birthday replaced all of that with a counter, a number that goes up every year, a number that the state records, that the market targets, that the insurance company prices, that the employer uses to determine what you're worth and when you're done. Your age, pinned to your birthday, became the primary metric by which institutions measured you, not your experience, not your wisdom, not your role in the community, your number. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision across every domain I've examined. Systems that measured a human being in relation to community, to place, to the people around them, replaced by systems that measured a human being in relation to a number. The calendar replaced the moon. The clock replaced the sun. The birth certificate replaced the naming ceremony. And the birthday replaced the saint's day. Now let's talk about what grew around the birthday once it existed. Because an industry grew around it, and the speed of that growth tells you something about what the birthday was actually for. The Happy Birthday song was composed in 1893, originally as Good Morning to All by Sisters Patty and Mildred Hill, teachers in Kentucky. By the 1930s, the birthday variant lyrics had spread through American culture via radio and stage. The song became the most performed song in the English language. The birthday cake, which had been a luxury item available only to the wealthy, became affordable through the Industrial Revolution's mass production of sugar, flour, and pre-made baked goods. Birthday cards became a commercial product. Birthday gifts became an obligation. Birthday parties became an industry. By the mid-20th century, the birthday had been transformed from a celebration that most people didn't observe into an annual economic event that generated billions of dollars across cards, gifts, decorations, parties, dining, and entertainment. The deeper I went, the more I saw the architecture. The birthday creates a consumer occasion, predictable, annual, non-negotiable. Every person has one. Every person is expected to spend on others and receive spending on their own. The birthday is the most reliable recurring commercial event in the calendar of an individual consumer. It cannot be skipped. It cannot be forgotten without social cost. It arrives with the precision of a billing cycle and the emotional weight of an identity marker. You don't just celebrate it. You are it. You are your birthday. It is the first thing the system asks and the last thing it records. The official explanation collapses here. We're told that the birthday is a celebration of life, a recognition of the individual, a moment when the people who love you gather to mark the simple miracle of your existence. And of course it is. Of course it can be beautiful. Of course the candles and the singing and the wish made in the dark before you blow them out carry genuine warmth. But the warmth was added later. The number came first. The administrative requirement came first. The civil registration came first. The date pinned to the body came first. The celebration was built on top of the infrastructure, not the other way around. You were counted before you were celebrated, and the counting wasn't done by your family. It was done by the state. I don't have a complete theory. I have a question that multiplies the deeper I look. Why did a practice that was absent from ordinary life for 17 centuries of Christian civilization, condemned as pagan by the early church, unknown to the common people of medieval Europe, and unnecessary to the functioning of any pre-industrial community, suddenly become universal at the exact historical moment when the nation-state needed a date attached to every body? Why did the birthday emerge as a universal celebration during the same decades when civil registration, compulsory schooling, military conscription, and census-based population management were being constructed? Why did the intimate ritual of the Kinderfest, a candle for each year of life, become the anchor of a multi-billion-dollar commercial industry within a single century? And the question underneath all the others, the one that sits in the silence between the candles. What did it mean to be a person before you were a number? What did it mean to belong to a community rather than to a date? What was the naming ceremony doing for the human soul that the birthday replaced and that we no longer know we've lost? I'll leave you with this. Next year, on your birthday, someone will ask you how old you are. You'll answer with a number. That number will locate you on a timeline that the state constructed, that the market uses, that every institution in your life references to determine what you're allowed to do, what you're expected to produce, and when you're expected to stop. That number began the day a registrar wrote your date of birth in a ledger. Not the day your grandmother held you. Not the day your community named you. Not the day someone looked at you for the first time and decided you belonged. The candles on your cake count the years since the system noticed you. They do not count the years since you were loved. Those numbers are the same, but they are not the same thing at all. Your ancestors didn't have birthdays, not because they didn't matter, because they were held by something that didn't need to count them to know they were there. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.